What does a man become when life crushes him, yet he still chooses to lift someone else? Look closely, my friend, because sometimes the smallest act of kindness becomes the very key that unlocks a destiny the world tried to steal. And before we step into this story, hit that subscribe button to join Echoes and Struggles, the home of real, raw, life-changing parables. And trust me, stay until the end of this one. It will leave you speechless. It began on a freezing Tuesday morning in Cleveland, Ohio, when Matthew Cole, a 38-year-old construction worker and single father, stumbled out of his cramped apartment, wrestling with fatigue and fear. Matthew's jacket was patched at the elbows. His jeans were permanently dusted with concrete. His boots were years past their prime, the leather cracked and tired. But what weighed him down the most wasn't worn-out clothing, it was life. He lived with his daughter, 8-year-old Emma, in a small, dimly lit one-bedroom apartment where the heater coughed instead of warming, and the refrigerator hummed louder than it stayed full. The walls were too thin, the nights too cold, and the bills too high. Still, every morning, Matthew woke up early, cooked oatmeal for Emma, braided her hair the best he could, and whispered, "Daddy's here. Daddy's trying." And Emma, all innocence and faith, would smile and press her hand against his cheek. "Dad, you're the best." But inside, Matthew felt like a man losing every battle at once. He had already fallen behind on rent. Utilities were overdue. Medical bills from Emma's asthma flare-ups were stacked on the table, like a silent mountain waiting to bury him. And to make matters worse, he had a court hearing scheduled next week, one that could determine whether Emma remained with him. His ex had petitioned for full custody, claiming he wasn't stable enough to care for their daughter. Matthew feared she might be right, not because he didn't love Emma, but because he had nothing left to give except love. No savings, no family to help, no backup plan. Just a father's heart beating against the weight of the world. The breaking point came that same afternoon. Matthew was on lunch break when the foreman called him over. "Cole, got a minute?" The tone made Matthew's stomach drop. The foreman looked at the ground, rubbing the back of his neck. "Look, man, the company's cutting staff. You've been great here, but today's your last day." Matthew stared. "My last day? Bill, I have a kid, a custody hearing. Please, I need this job." "I know, I'm sorry, brother." And just like that, everything fell apart. Matthew drove home numb, barely able to breathe, staring straight ahead like a man walking underwater. When he finally tucked Emma into bed that night, he sat on the floor beside her mattress and covered his face. His shoulders shook silently. "God, why?" he whispered. "What else do you want me to lose?" He felt like a failure, a man fighting a storm with bare hands, a father trying to hold on to the only thing that mattered. And now, my friend, let me speak directly to you. Have you ever reached a point where everything felt like it was collapsing? Where you wondered if God had forgotten your address? If you've been there, drop a comment below. Your story may lift someone who is drowning right now. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Stay with Echoes and Struggles. You belong here. 2 days later, with only $5 left in his pocket, Matthew drove Emma to school in his old Honda that shook every time he hit 40 miles per hour. Snow fell in fine white sheets, dancing across the windshield. Halfway down a quiet stretch of road, he noticed a car parked dangerously close to the shoulder, hazard lights blinking weakly. A woman stood beside it, wrapped in a long coat, stomping her feet against the cold. Her breath fogged visibly in the frigid morning air. Matthew slowed. He could have kept driving. He should have kept driving. He had no time, no money, no gas to waste. But something deeper, something soft and stubborn, tugged at him. "Help her!" He pulled over. The woman looked up, startled by his sudden presence. "Ma'am, you okay?" he asked. I think my tire blew," she said, voice shaking. "My phone died, and I'm supposed to be in court downtown in 30 minutes. I'm completely stuck." Matthew peered at the tire and winced. It was shredded. He rolled up his sleeves. "Pop the trunk. I'll help." The wind cut through his thin jacket as he crouched, hands sinking into ice-cold slush. The jack was old and stiff. His fingers went numb as he wrestled the lug nuts loose. He could barely feel his knuckles. His breath turned into clouds. Snow soaked through his jeans, but he kept going. After 20 grueling minutes, the spare tire was finally secured. The woman exhaled in relief. "Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you so much." Matthew wiped his cold, aching hands on his jeans. "No problem, ma'am. Just drive safe." "Please," she insisted, "let me pay you." He shook his head. "No need. Someone would help my daughter if she were stranded. That's enough for me." The woman stared at him for a long moment, really looking at him, taking in the exhaustion in his eyes, the worn jacket, the quiet dignity. "Sir, may I at least know your name?" He hesitated, then, Matthew Cole." She nodded slowly. "I won't forget that." He thought nothing of it, just kindness paid forward. He drove away, completely unaware of who she truly was. A few days later, the dreaded morning arrived. Matthew's custody hearing. He wore his cleanest shirt, still slightly frayed, and held Emma's small hand as they walked into the courthouse. His heart hammered in his chest. His breathing was shallow. "Dad," Emma whispered, "it's gonna be okay." He wanted to believe her. When the bailiff opened the courtroom doors, Matthew stepped inside and froze, because seated at the judge's bench, in her formal robe, was the stranded woman from the roadside, Judge Caroline Hayes. Matthew's blood ran cold. She recognized him instantly. Her eyes widened in shock, then softened with understanding. The courtroom murmured. "Mr. Cole," she said gently, "please come forward." Matthew approached slowly, Emma clinging to his side. Judge Hayes reviewed the documents. "Mr. Cole, it says here you recently lost your job." "Yes, Your Honor," Matthew murmured, voice trembling. "I'm doing everything I can to find another. I'm not giving up." "You also raise your daughter alone?" "Yes, ma'am." She set the papers down. "And yet, despite your circumstances, despite your struggles, you stopped your car and helped a stranger on the side of the road during a snowstorm?" Matthew blinked. "That was you!" Judge Hayes smiled softly. "It was." Silence settled. Thick, fragile, electric. "Mr. Cole," she continued, "the law requires me to protect a child's well-being, but character matters too. And what I saw that morning was a man of integrity, compassion, and selflessness." Matthew's eyes burned. "I'm not removing custody," she said firmly. "In fact, I am granting you full retention of parental rights. Furthermore, I'm connecting you directly to state programs designed to help single parents regain stability." A beat passed, then another. "And," she added kindly, "I know people in your field who value reliable workers. Expect a phone call this week." The gavel tapped lightly. Case continued with support, not punishment. Emma burst into tears and threw her arms around her father's neck. Matthew covered his face. He couldn't even speak. Judge Hayes watched with warm eyes. "Never stop being who you are, Mr. Cole. This world needs more men like you." 3 days later, Matthew received a call from a major construction firm. "Mr. Cole, Judge Hayes recommended you personally. We'd like to offer you a position, full-time, full benefits." Matthew nearly dropped the phone. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. His bills caught up, his rent paid, his home warm again, his daughter happy, safe, secure. And Matthew, he became a man reborn. He started volunteering in his community, fixing fences for elderly neighbors, helping repair school playground equipment, speaking to young parents about resilience. People came to know him not as the struggling dad, but as the man who helped strangers without expecting anything back. One sunny afternoon, Emma tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, I'm proud of you." Matthew lifted her into his arms, feeling tears sting the corners of his eyes. "No, sweet girl," he whispered. "I'm proud of us." Months later, Judge Hayes invited him to speak at a local event about the power of kindness. When he stepped onto the small stage, the room erupted in applause. Not because he was rich, not because he was powerful, but because Matthew Cole had proven a simple truth. Sometimes the smallest act of compassion becomes the miracle you never knew you needed. So let me ask you today, are you building towers of pride or bridges of kindness? Are you walking past people or bending down to help them? Because destiny doesn't always come through money or degree or power. Sometimes destiny comes through a tire change in the snow. If this story moved you, hit like, leave a powerful comment, share this video with someone who needs hope today, and don't forget, subscribe to Echoes and Struggles for more life-changing stories that remind us. True wealth is kindness. True strength is love. True success is resilience. And sometimes, your breakthrough begins with helping someone who can't repay you.